Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Under the Sportlight, the podcast that explores the people who live and breathe professional sport. I'm your host Phil, and today we're joined by Linus Gunnarsson. He's a sports lawyer and FIFA licensed agent making big waves in women's football worldwide. Linus, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. What a nice introduction. Appreciate it.
Nice. So I'm glad you enjoyed that. And I hope I pronounced your name correctly. So before we go into our main focus here, I'd love to sort of walk back in time a little bit and get a sense of how it all started for you. So where did you grow up and what was sport like for you in your life early on?
Yeah, I grew up in a mid-sized town called Örebro in the middle of Sweden. So it's basically between Gothenburg and Stockholm, which are two big cities. And I lived there the first 22 years of my life before moving when I started studying. Football came in around when I was 5 or 6 when I started playing. And then I just played for fun until I wasn't good enough to continue. And then I changed and turned into a football agent. Football coach first, which was, I was better at that. And then I took a few years off, just studying law, went to law school. And then I picked football back up again with becoming a football agent instead.
Did you think I want to go back and work in this industry someday when you went into law school? Or did that come later?
No, it came later. I didn't even really think about combining sports and law when I started studying. But like, I think it was during the third year in law school, I got the opportunity to try it. And then I just got stuck. But if someone would have told me before, then of course I would have pursued lawyers because of that. But no, it wasn't in the plans when I started studying. No.
Okay, so did you have any other careers in mind within law that you were considering at the time when you started?
No, like to be honest, I think like law schools is just one of the best and broadest educations, I think, and I couldn't really decide what to do. So I got accepted and I just went for it. And then, business law, of course, was the first thing I got into, but, not more precise than that.
Yeah. Did you have any first real job opportunities from law school that were not connected to sport?
No, the first job I got from law school was actually where I am now. So I started working extra after 2 years out of the 5. I started working extra as a student, not related to sports law at all. But then we had some people here that worked in sports law, so I always tried to work closer to them. And then after a few years, I was able to do it full time.
No, that makes sense. And in those early days, after you then started working within sports law, what did those days look like? What kind of tasks or what were you actually doing in the beginning?
When I started, I worked a lot with GDPR, which was new back then. But sports law at the beginning, I was working with federations, competitions, football clubs, assisting in transfers, extensions of contracts, sponsorship contracts. Educating other agents. It was everything within football, basically. I was helping tennis and hockey players sign sponsorship contracts, drafting those, reviewing those. Everything within sport, basically.
And tell me then about the transition then from doing that sort of work, which is, I'm sure, a lot of what you do today still, to being the main agent for a professional football player, the one that looks at their contracts, that, has them as your own client that you take care of.
Yeah, it wasn't really planned at first, but basically I was having a case just as a sports lawyer for a female footballer that came out very successfully. Uh, and when we were done, the player wanted us to represent her in all matters. So basically, that was our first client, and this was back in 2020. So it was a good timing, I think, because things started happening on the women's side. So yeah, we got our first client, and then just word of mouth, we got more clients because they were happy, and then all of a sudden, I could do it full time basically. So it just been growing since.
Well, and was it always women's football, or did you work with both men and women in the beginning, and it just happened to become your focus afterwards?
Now I worked with both men and women. First, we had a collaboration which was mainly focused on the men's side, but then it just shifted, and then a year ago I just said that I'll do this fully. I'm leaving the men's side. Let's focus on the women's side for now. I still have one or two men's players that I'm helping, but I'll always help those. It's people I know privately as well. So since a year and a half, I've exclusively shifted to the women's side instead.
That's cool how that sort of happened naturally, organically. But now you have a lot of clients and are doing really incredibly well as an agent in women's football. I would like to know, like, did you have any fears when you started working as an agent within the industry, or was there anything that made you think, oh, I don't know about this, or were you fully confident in your competency?
I would say I was pretty confident. Um, I I don't tend to have a lot of fears, to be honest. I don't know if it's me being naive or stupid, but I was pretty confident. I had all I'd worked with football for a while, and I worked with other agents and clubs for a while, so I kind of knew the levels, uh, and I'm very confident in what I'm doing. Uh, so not really. I just thought it was really fun. uh, so this has been a thrill since I started. Basically, I've enjoyed every second so far.
That's cool. And now that you're established, a well-established agent, what is life like for you? I assume this is how I picture it. Okay, I picture agents working all the time, just always on their phone, trying to figure something out, trying to help a client. Is it actually like that, or what do your days look like?
Yeah, I think but that comes from the law firm as well. Like we're consultants, so there's just you're expected to be available, uh, maybe more than uh, you know people in general, just as an agent. But I've never seen it as a problem. It's never been something that's been troubling either. Like I think I really enjoy working with my clients. Like I get happy when they text or call. Like it's not something that is disturbing me. Of course, people understand that, if it's not stressful, we can call tomorrow or we can call in business hours. But if it's stressful, I'll send him a text and I'll see if we can have a quick chat. But of course, you need to be available because things happen. And then especially a few weeks per year, you have to be extra available because there's a pressure of time with making things happen. But in general, I wouldn't say that it's something that's a problem. My I'm getting married this summer, and my fiance is
Congratulations.
she has a very similar job. She's very available
Okay,
as well, so
okay.
it's working really well at home.
So you're gonna be in your honeymoon, probably also working, or no? Are you gonna completely shut down your phone?
No, no, I haven't shut down my phone in 5 years. Like I don't think I'm gonna shut it down just because I'm on a honeymoon, but I think I mean, it means we need to do some more work early on, but we always do things early on. I usually say that, deadline days for amateurs, that's not a good condition to make a good transfer with that time pressure on you. So the biggest and best deals are always made way ahead of everyone else knowing about it. So
Right.
um,
So I was assuming that the most stressful, or maybe not stressful, but the busiest time of the year would be the transfer window for
yeah,
you. Um, but if you're working on stuff as early as possible, is it before the transfer window that the work really starts happening a lot as you're getting gearing up and preparing for the transfer window?
yeah, we put a lot of work in trying to be. We don't want to be a transactional agent. We don't want to be someone who is work to move players around. I usually say that the less you move player, the better, because you move when you're not happy or you need something else or you're outgrown your environment. But of course, someone who moves the same player every single year is obviously doing something wrong. So we try to have the same workload all over the year. So in some months there's a bit more signing contracts and moving players. Some months there's a bit more of a focus on doing your taxes, signing sponsorship things. There's always something to do, but I would say that the workload is pretty same all year around. But of course, in August, July, August, January, things pop up. Um, but I wouldn't say those months are heavier than any other month in general. Then of course you're of course affected by how the clubs are doing. Like if the clubs are doing things late and are stressed, of course it spills over on you. But this is something that's getting better and better on the women's side for every year. Like a few years ago, everyone was signing like a 1-year contract with all the players, and they just window opened. It felt like they had the first meeting about, okay, what should we do? Um, the clubs are planning much better and in advance now with the money going up. So this is just a problem that's getting smaller and smaller, I think.
That's good. So I guess then the fact that women's football is growing so much gives the clubs more confidence to do longer deals with their players.
Yeah, I mean, they have to because it's if you invest a lot of money in a player, you need more years to financially in the books. Of course, if you pay €1 million to sign a player for a year, that's a big cost. But if you do it over 4 or 5 years, it's probably easier to justify it. So of course, and then that goes two ways because it's so much easier as a player to sign a long-term contract if you're actually getting well paid for it. Um, so yeah, I think it's something that's moving in the right direction, and it also results in us having more time to plan and do the transfers in a good way, not having to redo everything every year. It's easier to build careers that way.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I guess, you also like you represent people, clients with a wide range of age and experiences, right? So you have well-established clients to really young stars. Obviously, you treat all of them with the same degree of attention and care, but how do you, as an agent, individualize that attention and care to each player according to their personalities or characteristics?
Yeah, I mean, every single client relationship is different, and clients want very different things. They work in very different ways. I think one of the key factors for us has always been to make sure that we don't have too many players. I mean, we need to have a number of players that we actually can manage. Um, we spend a lot of time on the personal aspects as well, because I think it's very hard to make the right decisions with players if you don't really understand who they are as a person, because you're signing for a football club, but you're also signing up for a new life, and it's much easier for me to give my thoughts and ideas to the players and the families if I actually know the player really well. Um, so not every single discussion has to be about football. Sometimes we can talk about other things, just to build a relationship, to get to know each other. When we work with young players, I see a lot of agents, they sign a 15, 16-year-old talent, and then they publish it on social media, and they always say like, "Oh, let's go." But when you're 16, like there's no let's go. Like this, nothing's gonna happen when you're 15, 16. Usually, like the only reason I think you sign someone early on is, as we say, like if they are gonna make a move when they're 18 or 19, it's much easier to make that move with someone you've already known for 2 years and you trust them already, instead of signing a new club and a new agent at the same time when you turn 18 or 19. So we've uh, we've only had a few players that age, but those players they've now made the big moves to big clubs, and when they did that move, they've already known us for 3 or 4 years. So it was just much easier and safer, I think.
And I guess that's a difference that might be also within men's to women's football is, I see a lot of really, really, really young men's players who are signing with agents really, really early on, right? They're 6, 7, 8 or whatever, and they're already signed with the players. So it's interesting that for the women's football side, you're looking at the 18-year-old mark. So you're trying to sign them a little bit earlier so you get to know them, and so you build a relationship with them, as you said.
Yeah, it's worth. I know that's how it is now. I mean, I've seen the sponsors, they also sign players very early, but the FIFA agency regulation says that you can't sign them until it's 6 months before they are able to work where they are. So it's usually like 15 years old, around there. But of course, you hear about players all the time being much younger and already have representation. But it's around 14 and a half, 15 usually, where you make the first decision about who to sign with as an agent. A lot of players do it later, which I think makes sense as well.
Yeah. Okay, so I didn't know about that. So that makes sense. And I think this is a good segue into my next question. Like, I've always been curious to know how different agents approach sourcing clients and finding the young talent. So you're talking about signing the young talent, but there may be more. I'm not sure, but I do know that you can sign, let's say, a type of client which is someone that is changing representation, someone that's already an established player. Maybe they had an agent, their contract is up, and now they're actively looking for a new agent. And another would be a young player that has never had an agent before. So looking at that player that has never had an agent before, well, first, can you talk about the differences between these types of clients and how you approach signing then a new client?
Yeah, when you sign a player who does not have representation right now, I mean, I think we can speak general. We've been very lucky the last years because most of our new players have signed on recommendations. So we haven't. I mean, I haven't approached people in general. I've been approached, which has been really. It makes it easier, I think. And it's also nice to have someone present themselves to you and like ask for help, rather than like having to chase someone. But I think that when it comes to players without an agent, usually, I think you know pretty well, who's of interest and who's not. Usually for me, I watch a lot of football. I watch the club teams. I watch the youth national teams, and then you see something you believe in. I mean, it doesn't. I mean, I think it's better something you believe in than something you like, because it's especially when young players, you just need to see something that you think could be something really good in a few years. And then when you've done that, you just have to think about is this something for us? And then hopefully during that process of time, they don't sign for someone else. Um, and then when you've decided that like this is something for us, I think we could do a good job here, you reach out. And if the player is under 18, of course, you reach out to the parents. And you have a first meeting, you present what you can do, and then you take it from there. If there's a player who already has representation, you can't really do much, because there's a rule saying that you can only approach someone who has less than 2 months on the current representation agreement, which is I think is a pretty unfortunate rule because it has like a big lock-in effect. I think the players should be able to choose the representation they want. And 2 years is a very long time because the maximum term of an agent agreement is 2 years, which means that basically every single agent sign a 2-year contract with the players without any option to terminate. So basically you have like a 2-month window every second year where you can actually approach the player. The players usually don't really know when this is, so you can't really like if I find a player that I think is interesting, I think you should work with us. There's no real way for me to know if I can approach, if I can't approach, because there's no public record either of who's with who. So FIFA trying to implement it, but until today I can't really see who works with who and for how long. So the only thing you're allowed to do, which FIFA has said, is that you're allowed to ask someone if they have an agent, basically. And if they say yes, you just that you don't know when you can approach or not. So if you're lucky, they tell you from nowhere, like, "Hey, I want a new agent. This is when my rep agreement is out." But that's not too common. Like usually they don't really know. Like, can I terminate? When is it out? I can't find it. It's especially with young players. Like I think it's just I think FIFA could do more to protect the players, like make it easier to change the agent. Because if you have an agent and you have 18 months left on your contract, you don't want to work with that person. I think it's a big problem in the end. And then was it the third category, or was it just those two?
Well, those are two that I came up with. If you can come up with another one, that would be okay.
I think it's easy to just get stuck with like player representation. I think it's also worth noting that a lot of agent work is being done for clubs. So when you sell a player from one club to another, usually you can have 3 agents involved. One with the selling club, one with the buying club, one with the player, and those representation agreements are usually entered into through good relations. You have a club that trusts you and wants you to source an opportunity or find an opportunity. So
right. So sometimes then what I understand from what you said then is sometimes you have a good relationship with the club that's looking for, say, a right winger with this and that characteristic. They tell you, hey, can you help me find someone? And then you may be able to get in contact with other agents that have those sort of players and put those deals together. Yes.
Yeah, and then you represent the club instead in the negotiations. On the men's side, it's much more common to have many agents involved. On the women's side, it's still more, because the money is so much smaller, so it's more common to have one agent, and that agent probably comes from the player. But it's more common, I think. But on the men's side, you have big scouting departments, you have transfer room, you have a lot of tools to find the players you want to find. On the women's side, there's still a lot of big clubs that don't really have that. So they're more depending on good agent relations to actually find players and to know about players. Of course, the big clubs, they're growing really quickly. But, until a few years ago, the clubs could have a person who was the sport director and the scout, and the whole scouting department was that person. So they always tended to go to the same markets or to the same agents because they didn't have time to search through all of them. So that's still the case in a lot of clubs on the women's side, that they are depending on the agents because they don't really have scouting networks themselves. But it's getting less and less common. Like I think more and more I hear that we don't want any recommendations. We have everything we need in a database. We'll reach out to you if we need anything, which is positive. Like that's how it should be in the end. So.
Right. No, that makes sense. And you were also talking about getting new clients through word of mouth or through being recommended to a new client, and also watching a lot of games to see and look at who else is coming up that you can look into signing. And so on that side, when you're watching a game and see someone that you go, oh wow, this is someone I would like to represent, what is it that makes you say that when you see a player?
I actually got that question like a day ago and couldn't really answer. So, but it's hard because it's like the whole thing. Like because when you see the player, you don't really know how they work. You know, the mental game is maybe the biggest one, and you don't know that until you know the player. So usually you have a few meetings before. I mean, it's it's about selling yourself to the player so they pick you, but at the same time, there's a process from the agent side. You know, is this someone we want to work with? But I think you get a feeling. I think I don't know if it's from experience or from being playing and coaching football. It's but you get a feeling, and I think you need to have that kind of faith in a player to work with them because you can't represent someone who you don't believe in yourself. It doesn't really make sense to push players and try to convince brands and clubs to bet on those players if you don't want to bet on them yourself. So it's a good question, but I think football, of course, basic football knowledge is to see someone who has something extra. Uh, you know what's needed in this position. You know the things that are not really working for this player, are those easy fixes or are they going to be a problem forever? Uh, some things you can't change, some things you can work on. Uh, and then if you have something that's pretty easy to fix and you understand that the player is a really ambitious player in a very good environment, usually you can fix those things pretty quickly. Um, and then, of course, just getting a good advisor is going to help on the way because I think that making the right decisions is key. But I think for the first years when you are young, it's just as important to find an advisor who doesn't make you take the wrong decisions. That's even more important because usually if you just keep focus and wait for the right opportunity, it's gonna come to you. But it's just important to have someone who doesn't tell you to, make the move too early or do something stupid that just makes you lose focus. So I think it's more about finding someone who doesn't make you do bad things early on. And then after a while, it's going to be about making active decisions that are positive to your career.
Right. Okay. Well, I have a few questions on what you just said, but I think the first one would be when you look at a player and you say I want to sign them. Are there any red flags that would make you say, no, I'm not. I'm not interested anymore, even if the talent
Yeah,
is obvious from the get go.
yeah, yeah. I mean, of course. I mean, because it's even though it's a talent, it's going to be a day-to-day work for me. I can't work with someone for 10 years if I you know can't stand it. It needs to be enjoyable as well. Uh, we had it once. Like I had a. It was a very short meeting. It was like a 5-minute phone call where I got on the phone with a family member of a huge client, a huge talent, and the first question was, "What can I personally earn from sponsor deals from my family member?"
Oh, right.
And I thought, if that's the first question, we're not going to get anywhere here. Like I don't think I'm even going to be the agent. Like the fuck, I think they will actually be the actual agents, and I'm just going to be someone who handles the paperwork.
Just signs it.
um,
Yep.
yeah, so I think that was a 5-minute call, and when that was the first question, we answered it briefly and finished the call and moved on. So it's not too common. Like it's of course there's red flags when you can just see that this person doesn't really have the ambition to be what we hoped as well, or the understanding of what it takes either. But it's very most players are really ambitious and really focused and really nice to work with.
Yeah. Well, that was actually going to be my next question about family members. I was going to ask about parents, but am I guess, be actually a family member? So, what sort of role do family members play in those early conversations? I guess in that specific one that you mentioned, a big role because it was a big red flag. But do parents play a big role in early on conversations?
Yeah, and I think that's one of the mistakes agents are doing as well. Like they think they sign a client, but usually they sign 4 clients. Uh, I mean, I think you need to understand that it's a package. If you sign someone who's 16, 17, 18 years old and that person's been working close to her mom or dad for 10 years to become where the talent they are. Like, it's not they're gonna leave them overnight. So I think for us, I mean, even in our most successful cases, it's usually 2 or 3 clients for us, because almost every single player that we've been working with for a long time, we also have one extra person that we work with. So it could be a dad, it could be a personal advisor, mom, a brother, sister, a boyfriend or girlfriend. Like, it's very rare that we have a client who is the only point of contact in that career. It basically never happens.
That makes sense. I guess it's sort of like getting married, which you are soon. You're married the family as well, right? Not just the person
Yeah.
you're marrying. So you need a good relationship. It needs to work with their family as well. So that makes sense. Um, Now moving our conversation a little bit more into talking specifically about women's football. I know we've already talked a little bit about it, um, but was there anything different about working in the women's game compared to what you expected when you started?
Um, yeah, it was a lot easier. I I was used on the men's side, like there's a war going on. It's there's a million agents, and everyone represents the same player, and everyone is offering the same player, and it's a chaos, to be honest. And on the women's side, like going on a holiday for the first year. Like, there was no competition. It was really enjoyable coming from the men's side, uh, probably because the money wasn't there, so there was nothing to argue about for the people who was there for the wrong reasons. Like, everyone who was there because they cared about women's football and they cared about the players, and they just wanted to help. But on the men's side, it was, the businesses are so big, so it was like the stakes are so high, so it's just a completely different environment. I was also surprised about how much work was needed to be done from the clubs. I didn't really know how far behind many leagues were, um, but I'm also surprised and impressed about how quickly things are happening. Uh, of course, we have trailblazers. Like, earlier it was the Swedish league, now then it was the English league and the American league, and now the German league's following. But it's only been, I mean, usually I see 2017 as like the big year when things started happening, and that's only 8 years ago. And there's just so much has happened since. I mean, our biggest profiles here in Scandinavia, they're huge. I mean, the Swedish national team in football on the women's side is the most liked team in Sweden in all categories. Um, and it's just, I know what my players earned back in 2020, and I know what they earn now. Like, it's just so much more interesting for a young girl to really bet on football, because there's actually a prize in the end. Uh, so hopefully that just attracts so much more players, which just grows the whole game.
Yeah, I mean, Sweden has always been a trailblazer in women's football. I remember growing up, we would watch women's football a lot in the Olympics, for example, still
Yeah.
growing up, or maybe 10, 20 years ago, and all you would see was Sweden, Sweden, Sweden just winning everything. So I completely understand that you also had that, hopefully, that advantage of, being in a place where women's football is already so prevalent. But it sounds like you did have to look far ahead into the future, to start early on in the women's game. Like you said, starting early on, there's not a lot of competition because there's not a lot of money in it, but now it's really growing. So where do you see the sport going in the next 5, 10 years from now?
Hopefully, the same direction is going now. Now, I think I've always really, my thoughts have always been like, I think the women's football's got to be just as the men's football too. I mean, I think the rankings are going to be the same. The best league on the men's side is going to be the best league on the women's side, and the fifth league on the women's side is going to be the fifth league on the men's side. I think hopefully, like, the inequalities are just being smaller and smaller for every year, but I think it's just realistic that the big nations on the men's side will also be the big nations on the women's side. Of course, it comes with a few results that are, not. I mean, there's a lot of clubs in Swedish football that only do women's football that have been done. They've been doing a really good job for a really long time, and they are disappearing, unfortunately, which is sad in one way, but at the same time, if women's football is going to develop, they don't really have the muscles and capacity to develop at the same pace. So it's just something that's necessary, but it's also a bit sad. Um, I think it's just going to be a lot more like it's on the men's side with, who's the best, what competition's the biggest, how does it work? Um, then, of course, there are some differences that I think I hope are gonna stay in women's football. Um, that I, there's a lot of fans coming to women's football because they're tired of the men's side now, which is also interesting because the men's side is developing in a direction that there's a lot of people doesn't like where men's football are
Right.
going, and then women's football become a good option instead.
Absolutely. Well, the sport is certainly growing a lot in popularity. Um, how do you help your clients navigate the opportunities that they get with the growing sport versus stability as the game grows?
Yeah. I think stability is, I mean, that's something you work on every day. Like I think myself, I'm part of the stability, of course. The people around them at home, making good long-term decisions, having some, like for us, for example, we have rules with our players and how to operate, like what kind of contracts do we want to define? What happens if you're approached directly? How do we sign a contract? How do we negotiate? I think all of those things give them a lot of security. And then, of course, for the players we've been working with the longest, I think they just feel safe in, I kick the ball, Linus do the rest, and then we communicate in this way. Um, so I think that's part of it. I mean, of course, there are things happening in women's football that sometimes you see that okay, things are moving quickly, but we're not following. Um, for example, like nowadays in the big clubs in the UK, the players are not allowed to walk out the stadium after the games. Like they need to take a taxi at least 1 kilometer away before they get out because of safeguarding. But only like 2 years ago, I could just walk straight out of like Emirates Stadium with a player, and then we had hundreds of people just come and running to us because nobody really thought about that happening back then. So now, like if I'm meeting a player after a game at a stadium, we always need to have like a meetup point 1 kilometer away just to get out of the stadium. So those things it's been a special time where the profiles have been growing a lot, but they've been just walking around the city as like normal people, and then in some contexts that's pretty weird. For example, game day outside your own stadium, like that's not the best place to be, maybe. Uh, so it's an adaptation period, but it's also one of the strengths on the women's side because the profiles are so easy to relate to. They're very accessible for the fans, and the fans feel very connected to them. So it's something that we want to keep, but we also need to keep it in a safe way.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to balance the safety of the players with also that being so relatable. And I'm assuming you probably have like your go-to meeting point a kilometer away from each of the main stadiums that your players are always playing at, do you?
Yeah, a favorite pub or restaurant.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but I think it's just an important point to make that people are trying. Like it's not like people are lazy. People are trying to catch up, but it's this exact same problem as with the amount of ACLs in women's football. Like we're at a point where we just increase the number of games because the business is growing and the amount of ACLs are also increased, and we don't really know, how do we help female players compared to male players? Or why do we have so many ACLs? And then we have people that take responsibility, with the Kniska situation, with the new center in Kniska, the owners of Lyon, Washington, London City. where they invest a lot in just women's sports, just to try to understand like how do we best support women football players, because we don't really know like all of the science behind it is from the men's side earlier. So it's just let's double the amount of games and let's see what happens, and then all of a sudden players are
Yeah,
injured everywhere.
they're tearing their ACLs. Yeah, well, and yeah, the bodies are different, right? So you have to do it from that perspective as well.
Yeah,
And yeah, like building on what you were saying, in the world we live in, it's not enough anymore for the players to just go to training, go to games, and carry on with their lives. So, like you said, they can't just walk out of the stadium now. How important is it for the players then to take care of their image outside of just the practices and the games, like on their day-to-day lives, and how they present themselves and how they relate to fans and what they post online and all those things?
I mean it's important for everyone, but it's very different player to player. I mean some players want to be they want to control their image. Uh, some players are more like, I'll do me and we'll see what happens. Um, I mean, of course, we are helping players differently. Um, yes, formally, when the players they have their own image right companies now, and they're actively with us, working with them, licensing and signing opportunities. But I think you're referring more to like the personal aspect of it. I think
Yeah.
that's
I was gonna go into both of them. I was gonna go first into the personal aspect, and then I was going to ask you then about your role in helping players navigate signing those sponsorship agreements and
yeah,
sporting
yeah,
goods agreements, things like that as well.
yeah. But I think if you have to be general, I would say that women players are more, they care more about the image than on the men's side, which is a really positive thing. They think twice before they post anything, and they think twice before they comment. And they ask us very often, can I do this? How do you think this will be perceived? Should I comment on this? Should I ignore this? Um, it's it's an ongoing discussion all the time, but I think that the clubs are also really good at helping it. Like the clubs, especially in the UK, are really good on like the handling the players' well-being around. We've had some incidents where players have been getting a bit too much attention in and sometimes in a bad way, where the media teams have been so quick to pick it up and just really safeguarding the player, helping, assisting, deleting, controlling comments, removing them from their own media for a few days to get some cooling off periods. I think it's the clubs are really good here in general.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I'm glad that that's something that's important for the players and for the clubs as well. And back to what I was saying then about the sponsorship agreement, sporting goods, looking at it from a brand perspective. What is your role? I know you help them with it, but do you have any specific roles in helping them achieve and get those deals as well?
Yeah, I think I have two roles. Like one role is to help them get the deals, and one role is just for me to constantly be on the barricades, yeah, screaming like invest in women's sports. Like it's a good investment. Come on, but I think it's different. Like some players have their own they have another agent doing the commercial side, which we are perfectly fine with. We usually don't take any commission on commercial stuff anyway. So it's just we have some players who have an extra person to just solely focus on that, and then we handle all of the legal aspects of it. So we're the contact between them. But more and more players tend to only want to work with us in everything. So right now, I think all players but one or two are doing. We're doing the football side, we're doing the personal side, we're doing the commercial side, we're doing the whole thing. And usually, I'm very open with the players about it. Like, what do you want? What's your dream sponsor? What sponsor do you want to be associated with? And then we reach out, we talk to them, we handle discussions, and it's been very successful for us so far. Like I think we've signed a lot of trailblazing deals for players up here. And then you always have to remember that 50% of our clients are non-Swedish. So we have a very international roster, and Sweden's a small market. Like there's a limit on how big of a deal you can sign in Sweden. Uh, if we have, I mean, it's been out in the news now, but if you have like let's say you have a US big athlete and they sign a $10 million deal with Nike, and then a player here on the same level football wise said, oh, 10 million, that's perfect. It's never going to happen. It's not going to happen here. It's not the same market. I mean, for us, we have a lot of players in Australia. Australia is also a bigger market than Sweden. If we have a player in the UK, much bigger market than Sweden.
Oh,
But
sure.
Sweden
Yeah.
is also a much bigger market than Hungary or Belarus. So it's everything's working in its own context. So just because you get the biggest deal up here doesn't mean you have the biggest deal in Europe, because you always have a budget for the market you're operating in. So yeah, but we're just very available for the players to discuss these kind of things and assist in these kind of things. And when we have a sponsorship opportunity, we do the negotiation, we do the drafting of the contracts, we're reviewing the contracts if they are doing the drafting, and then we handle the contract on an ongoing basis. So we track the invoicing, we track the postings, we track potential conflicting agreements coming up. We store all of the the agreements with us. That the players usually just keep all of their agreements in our systems, and then we use our own systems to follow up and track all of these things.
Is the UK the biggest market where all the players want to go to right now?
Yeah, by far.
Yeah.
The Premier League is a huge product, and the Women's Super League is also a huge product now.
Yeah, from what we see, it does look like the Super League is really popular, so it makes sense that everyone would want to be in those big clubs in England.
Yeah.
Now, to finish up here, I'd like to know a little bit about the mindset of people working in the industry. Um, so from sourcing clients to negotiating contracts, from a mindset perspective, how do you handle that emotional side of the job?
I mean, I think that's the best part of the job. Like I have 200 colleagues here that work with big companies, yes, business law, and I think the biggest upside to my job is that you get really personal. Like you really want your clients to succeed, and when they succeed, you succeed with them. Like I I've been celebrating 3 straight Champions League wins now with the players. Out of the 3 last finals, my players have scored a decisive goal twice in the biggest game in the world, and those evenings have been amazing. Like it's been players I've been knowing for 5, 6 years that I've been able to share the best moment of their life together with. So it's it's uh, it's hard to not be personal, if it makes sense. I mean, you get very close to the players that you work with for a long time. Um, some players you've helped professionally, you've helped them privately. I mean, some players have been going through tough breakups, and they've talked to us about it during the time. They've had personal crisis. They've lost family members. Well, of course, if you go through all these things with someone, you get really close to them, and then of course it can be hard to be. I mean, I don't feel it personally, but I guess that it can be hard to be objective and professional if you're really close to someone. But usually it's about finding like a new life and job for players. And that's usually, I think it's pretty easy to know what's the best for someone once you know them. Like I need to be able to tell someone that, Chelsea is not the right move for you right now. I know you love to play for them, and I know the paycheck's going to be big, but you're going to do this for 15 years. Like you're going to get there. But now we do this and then we do that.
That was actually going to be my next question. How do you balance being supportive Because it sounds like you're not just a business partner to them, you're also a friend. So how do you balance being supportive with being honest when then a move or an opportunity isn't right?
I think it's really easy to be honest once you know someone good enough. Like just imagine you with your best friends. Like you're very honest with them. I think, and I think it's about being honest at the same time supported. And I think if the players really feel that we are here for them, and the only thing we want is for them to be the best version of themselves, it's pretty easy to be honest because they know that we're telling them things that are in their best interests. Uh, and then also, yeah, you need to create an environment where it's okay not to agree. You know, we need the players to. If I tell someone, do not sign for this club, and they say that I want to sign for that club, they need to be able to make that decision without, you know, feeling that they are, making me disappointed. Like it's not my life. It's just about creating a safe environment where we can disagree and still be friends and move on as well.
I mean,
Uh,
it's ultimately the player's decision, right? You can help them as much as possible and be as honest as possible. But if they make a decision that you're not fully in agreement with, that is also okay because you can disagree. It's a relationship like that.
I mean, if they want it, I want it. That's like the basic rule, of course. But then sometimes you also feel the need of saying like, hey, I will support you in this, but this is not the perfect move right now, and I think this is what could happen. But if we do it, let's do it 100%, and we'll see where it takes us.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, well, hey, Linus, I really appreciate you doing this again. We're almost done here, but I just had one last question and then one little segment.
Yeah.
Who are you then on your free time when you're not doing football? You said you watch football a lot. When you're not watching football, what are you doing? What do you do to disconnect or decompress or do something else?
Yeah, I'm really boring, but I especially like in I think I'm a very fun guy. I think I'm very spontaneous, and I get a lot of ideas. Uh, but like Monday, Friday, I work basically. Of course, I eat, I train, I sleep, but especially this time of the year, it's a lot of work. If I'm home, I'm usually with friends, but you know, friends watching movies, TV shows. But like the problem with working with your biggest interest is that you don't really know when you're working or not.
Right.
So it's kind of ruins your interests a little bit as well.
Yeah.
Uh, so if I work a full day with football and then I come home and I'm like, yeah, let's watch a game. It's a bit weird. um, but no, it's a lot of work. But what I do for fun is just, I mean, I guess boring answer, but it's a lot of friends. I travel a lot, but same thing there. Like I travel so much in work that I don't really know if I want to travel or not when I'm off, if it makes sense.
Yeah, you
Uh,
want to stay home? Yeah.
yeah, like that's the holiday probably. It's just most convenient thing to be home for a few days. Um, but no, I think I'm a very happy and spontaneous guy. I'm very kind, I think, also, if I try
Mm,
to summarize it.
that's
Yeah.
amazing. Hey, and as we're approaching the end of our conversation here, the last segment, the last thing I wanted to do, we have this called quick fire here. So I just give you a choice between two options, okay, and you have to choose one. Is that okay?
Yeah. Are there any wrong ones? So
No, there's no wrong answer. No, you have to pick one.
you have to be good under pressure. Yeah.
Oh yeah, there you go. So
Fire.
you work with professional football, so I'm sure you're gonna do really well on this one.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah, hopefully.
all right, so this is quick fire.
It's quick fire time!
Early mornings or late nights?
All late nights, definitely. Especially in Sweden, this time of the year, the early mornings are dark. It's dark, dark, dark. It's hard to get up. So yeah, late
The
nights.
late nights. First meeting with a player, do you listen more or do you talk more?
I think I talk more
Mm,
because that's usually what they want. They want to know about you. Uh, But of course, if I could choose, I would probably listen more. But it's expected to talk more.
Long-term planning or trusting your instincts?
All long term, 100%.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee, always.
Well, if you're sending a lot of players to the UK, you need to like some tea as well sometimes.
Yeah, well, I can't remember the last time I had tea, basically. But in England, we used to do flat whites. That's
That's it.
the only thing people drink over there. Yeah, I think flat whites is Australian, is it?
I have no idea, but I have had them before, and
Yeah.
I'm a coffee guy as well.
Yeah,
So-
yeah, no good. Nice to hear.
All right, so one loyal club or global career changing clubs?
I'd say global career. Like you play for 10 to 15 years, like get some experiences. But then, of course, having a player playing for the same club for a long time, it's one of the coolest things in the world. But if I would do it myself, I would want to experience quite a few different things.
Texting or calling?
Goalie,
Summer transfer window or winter transfer window?
summer. Yeah, that's when the big ones are made usually. But in Sweden, it's special because we have the January to December season.
Right,
So
it's a little bit different.
the winter is much bigger for us than for the rest of Europe.
Right,
But the summer is still the big one, of course.
right. Makes sense. When traveling, are you a window seat or aisle seat kind of guy?
I
Is it specific reason for that?
No, I'm claustrophobic, and I usually want to be the first one off the plane just to move on. I'm a stressed guy, so I just want to get out.
Do you write everything down or do you type everything down?
I write still.
Mm.
There's actually some science behind it. Like if you write it down, the muscle memory helps you a bit.
You remember everything better if you write it
There's
down.
no muscle memory in writing typing on the computer. So
Mm-hmm.
if I write it down, I remember it as well. So I've had these ones for 5 years. I have 4 of them now. So
Nice. So everything's handwritten. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you'll remember things much better after.
yeah, then of course I have to I have to upload it to the computer just to archive. But
So you do
Just
the
to
work
remember.
twice, and then it really sticks.
yeah,
That makes sense.
but
Yeah.
I write it down. That's the most important thing
Yeah.
for me, at least.
Staying in or going out?
I turned 31. I'm turning 32 this year, and
Okay.
I think I'm old enough to say staying in now.
Yeah. No, I know what you're talking about. I'm turning 35, so I'm probably same age bracket, and
Yeah.
the more the years pass, I'm like, ugh, I just want to stay in.
Go-
I just want to stay in.
Going out is such a big process.
Right.
And
It's a lot of work.
so- yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. And to finalize, developing a player or closing a big move?
I mean, hopefully those two are combined, but
Yeah.
I would say developing a player. Like I always said that, like if I could decide, like if I could choose, I want to be with the player from the beginning. Like that's the ultimate prize for us is to have. We just had 2 really good examples with the only 2 15-year-olds we had ever signed. Went to Real Madrid and Arsenal last year, and it was a really proud moment for us because we've been with them since they got the first national team call up, since they made their loan moves to really small clubs to get game time when they were 16. We went to their graduations. It's just been such a long process. So I think that's signing those big deals with the players you've been with since day one that's the biggest prize. Much bigger than finding a world-class player and then just taking over and assisting from there. I think if you have the opportunity, you want to be from day one, even though from a business perspective, that's not really good. Like, of course, the best business move is to find a good player who's already on the top of the world. They just keep on being, but it's really giving to do the full development thing as well.
Yeah, I'm sure it's very gratifying, to develop a player from the early days and then sign big moves for those players, right? Like you said, combining those two.
But the development part is the fun one.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, Linus, again, I want to thank you so much for being up for this. I really appreciate your time. If people would like to follow you and take a look at what you're doing, where can they find you online?
Instagram is where I'm active now. It's linus.mgmt. That's the only place we post on. And now we have TikTok also, so linus.mgmt and TikTok as well. I always forget it.
Oh,
But yeah, those two platforms.
nice. Okay. Well, awesome. Thank you so much again. And, to everyone listening, thank you so much for tuning in as well. And we'll see you next time on Under the Sportlight.